Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Beginning in Omaha, where police are investigating a crash in the Millard neighborhood that killed one driver on Sunday. Police responded to the scene near 144th Street and Hillsdale Avenue. Crash investigators say the driver was traveling northbound at what's estimated to be over 100 miles per hour and struck a light pole. The car at the scene was found split in two and in flames. Medics declared the driver, identified as 24-year-old Brendan Patire, dead at the scene. Meanwhile, another person dead following a three-vehicle crash, this one northeast of Fremont. It happened on Friday afternoon along Highway 275. Dodge County authorities tell us an eastbound car struck a southbound pickup, sending the truck into a ditch south of the highway. The car then spun and struck an SUV. The driver of the pickup was declared dead at Methodist Fremont Health Hospital. In other news, fans of McDonald's getting some good news after a bad week for the company. Locations that haven't been serving quarter pounders because of an E. coli outbreak putting them back on the menu. McDonald's says that's because they've ruled out the burger's beef patties as the source of the illnesses. For now, the newly restored quarter pounders won't quite be the same, though. Amy Kiley tells us why.
Could I get a quarter pounder with cheese?
The answer now is probably yes. McDonald's says it's putting the quarter pounder back on menus nationwide. That's after an E. coli outbreak tied to the burgers prompted their removal from locations in some states. The Colorado Department of Agriculture says it tested beef patties from restaurants associated with the outbreak and found no E. coli. McDonald's says that result and other data lead it to believe the patties were not what made people sick. The CDC says the outbreak has caused at least one death, more than 20 hospitalizations, and dozens of other cases.
And the more the night went on, the worse and severe the cramping got, to the point that my kidneys were hurting really, really bad.
Investigators think another potential source of the outbreak could be contaminated onions. McDonald's says locations that got them from the Taylor Farms facility in Colorado Springs will serve quarter pounders without that topping for now. That's as federal regulators continue to investigate.
It will be over when the science says it's over, when we can conclusively say this is what happened.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
After many years, a museum in central Nebraska breaking ground. Ana Ruth Lugo Mejia has the details.
After 5 years of planning, a central Nebraska museum is finally getting constructed. On Friday morning, museum officials and community members gather for the groundbreaking ceremony of what is now known as the Epic Discovery Center. Executive Director Allison Larson says it's been a long time coming.
This is an epic day for us. We've been working on this project for 5 years. The average children's museum of this scope is typically 5 to 10 years, so the timeline is actually long. We're right in the mix, but we're excited to be here. It's a big step. It's a culmination of a lot of work.
In 2022, the Board of Directors announced the Old Armory building on Old Potash Highway next to Ryder Park as a museum site. Back then, it was known as the Grand Island Children's Museum before rebranding earlier this year as the Epic Discovery Center. The 18,000 square feet STEM-based Children's Museum will feature 2 stories of exhibit floor space. It will offer programming spaces, a kitchen, retail, office space, and outside access via 2 large garage doors.
We have schematics and renderings, and those change daily, weekly, because we think of something better or bigger, or we make a consideration that changes things, but we're always working through the planning stages.
Right now, they're working to seal the building up so that they can work on the inside. The museum was awarded a $5 million grant from the Nebraska Department of Economic Development's 2023 Shovel Ready Grant Program. The grant will match all gifts to help develop Epic Discovery Center. Donations and pledges are still accepted. Chief Construction is in charge of the $13.2 million project. Epic Discovery Center is tentatively planning to open early 2026. In Grand Island, Ana Ruth Lugo Mejia, News Channel, Nebraska.
This year's presidential election has been getting most of the attention, but there are hundreds of congressional seats up for grabs, including all 5 in Nebraska. Those will determine how much our next president will be able to accomplish, and it's a tight race for control. Our Washington correspondent, Julia Benbrook, has more from the Capitol on how history could be made this election cycle.
Polls show that something unprecedented could happen this year. The House could flip from Republican to Democratic control, while the Senate could flip from Democratic to Republican control. In the House, all 435 seats are up for grabs. Republicans currently control this chamber with a very slim majority.
I'm spending these final closing weeks in the swing states, in blue states, in toss-up districts for the House. I'm absolutely convinced. There's an energy out there right now. I'm convinced that we are going to win the White House, the Senate, and the House.
But Democrats need a net pickup of just 4 seats to flip the lower chamber. In the Senate, currently controlled by Democrats, only a third of the 100 seats are on the ballot every cycle. To flip it, Republicans need a net pickup of either 1 seat if the incoming vice president is a Republican, or 2 seats if the incoming vice president is a Democrat.
It's basically going to be about getting our voters out in the ground game and making sure that we get people out. I believe we're going to hold our majority, but it will be close. It's going to go right down to the wire.
The most vulnerable Democratic incumbents in the Senate are up for re-election in states that Trump twice carried comfortably: John Tester in Montana and Sherrod Brown in Ohio. Reporting in Washington, I'm Julia Benbrook.
More high-earning households say they're living paycheck to paycheck. Bank of America released a report that says about a fifth of U.S. households that earn more than $150,000 a year are in that situation. The bank says inflation, pricey mortgages, and big utility bills are stretching family budgets thin, even for higher earners. The analysis says some households, though, might find relief as inflation rates drop and kids age out of childcare. Well, it's a sport that is continually growing in popularity. Leroy Triggs takes us to a regional cornhole tournament in Kearney to find out what makes the sport such a four-bagger for so many Nebraskans.
From advanced to intermediate, all could participate in the Nebraska Regional Cornhole Tournament. 39 teams from across Nebraska and Kansas came to Central Nebraska to play the game they love.
I love the togetherness, everybody's all for one, it's everybody together, it's not just separate groups, everybody kind of comes together in the community.
Josh Fosick shares what makes cornhole special.
We've got young kids, probably 6, 7 years old, all the way up to probably people in their 70s throwing, so anybody can play. It's a good time, and it's like a family environment.
Some people start playing and have a natural talent for placing the beanbag on the board.
I just seen a local tournament come up in North Platte, and it's like I got a buddy and we just started playing. This was probably back in 2017. We took second place in the tournament first time I played, and I was like, all right, it's pretty fun. We're just gonna keep going with it.
Right after that, Randy Orvin knew he loves playing cornhole, adding, everyone is great to play with, and skill level doesn't matter. Just go out, throw your bag, and have a good time. Reporting in Kearney, Leroy Triggs, Local 4 News.
And finally, 2 years ago, Q Felton was living in Atlanta, years removed from his college football career. But flash forward to now, he's living in Kearney and competing as one of the best defensive players in Division II. Michael Shively tells us his story.
The Bearcats, after that conversion, in business, but the Lopers see the run, and Q Felton stops the run for a loss.
On college football Saturdays, UNK's Q Felton prefers to spend his time in the opponent's backfield.
Oh, you can't teach that type of athleticism.
And he's been doing a lot of that in his senior season.
I get in their head. I told them, come on, bring it, and see how many times they can win or how many times I can win.
Felton is tied for the league lead in sacks and top in the conference in tackles for loss. The defensive end's play as a Loper is a continuation of his success from Butler Community College in Kansas.
Pressure comes against Huff, and it gets home. Q Felton.
I like to put fear in people. That's what we provoke fear. So we just want to see how scared people come out and, how they respond to fear.
But his progression hasn't been a straight path. Felton played at Butler in 2018 and 19. Despite getting interest from Division I schools, the Atlanta native stepped away from football following the birth of his daughter, Tatum Jo.
I just wanted to be something I never, experienced or had. So I wanted to be a father for that kid. Basically, that's what put me back here, is knowing that there's somebody out there I need to just be in a better spot for.
After 3 years out of the game, schools came calling again, offering a final chance to complete his eligibility. With his football fire reignited, Felton knew he needed to talk to his former Butler head coach, Tim Schaffner, now the defensive coordinator at UNK.
That's the wizard. That is, everybody knows that defense is like chaos,
Someone else hit me up and said they thought Q was looking to play again. Well, I'm calling right away. All of a sudden, here he was again, and it was, guys are different than it was just like no time had passed at all. It was just like we were back in El Dorado, coaching and playing at Butler.
The results followed. Felton made honorable mention all-conference last season. He's on pace for All-American consideration this year. He hopes that momentum can carry into a professional football career.
Everybody's journey got obstacles. Mine definitely has some. I never gave up. I never put my head down towards football. I kept my love for football, and it's always there. I just love football.
Felton's goal for the rest of the season? Find a way to have his daughter see him play in person. In Kearney, Michael Shively, News Channel, Nebraska.
And you can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com, click on the News tab there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. You're watching News Channel Nebraska.